It is Saturday, 21st of August 2021, and forgive the knackered appearance, though many will claim that it's no different to my regular appearance. I was actually out late last night at a music venue in Worcester. I was there on business, but it was a great experience. There was a band performing. I think they were called Release the Kraken, and they were doing covers. Kings of Leon, The Killers, The Beatles, The Kinks, all kinds of stuff. And what was so great about it was that it could have been a night in 2019. There was nothing about being in that venue that would ever suggest that the events of 2020 and 2021 ever took place. No track and trace, no sanitizer at the door, not that I saw anyway. Not a mask in sight, and the venue was rammed. And people were hugging, they were kissing, they were dancing, they were drinking, they were socialising, they were having fun, singing along to the band. The band were having a great time. You know, COVID zealots would recoil in horror at the idea of this scenario. But the truth of the matter is nobody was doing any harm, and there was no threat to anyone else over and above what was in place prior to 2019. It was natural human behaviour. People coming together, socialising, having fun, enjoying themselves, releasing the stress and the tension of everyday life. What is so wrong with that? It was a very fulfilling experience, and it just reminded me of what we've lost and what's been at stake this whole time. We will get all of that back, but we might still have a struggle on our hands. But nevertheless, even though what was going on last night in that music venue could not be described as any kind of higher-minded behaviour, it was natural, instinctive human behaviour. And it was people tapping into that primal spirit of wanting to enjoy music, dance and socialise with each other, which has been going on since the dawn of time and is an inherent part of this human experience. So I'll leave that there. This video is titled Celebrity, I told you it was a late night last night, Celebrity Traitors, the Roll Call of Shame. And we're going to have some fun with this one. So there are certain factors which always had to be in place for this COVID scamdemic to succeed. One, of course, was the complicity of the treacherous mainstream media. All these treasonous vipers that masquerade as journalists and news anchors and presenters. They can share the traitor's fate that awaits all the politicians and all the lying medical experts, doctors, big pharma executives, these types of people, when the time comes, as far as I'm concerned. But another factor that always had to be in place was the complicity of celebrities, famous people. These names that everyone recognises, even though they're pointless in so many cases and they don't care about you. The main point about celebrities is they're not your friend. They masquerade as your friend. They become household names so that you're familiar with them and you tend to pay attention to them. Those that are mind controlled and brainwashed do anyway. I mean, the NHS and the government even had a campaign earlier in the year where they openly stated that they wanted to recruit sensible celebrities, their words, to help push the V agenda. What else? I mean, all roads were always designed to lead to the V agenda, right? Sensible celebrities. Isn't that an oxymoron? Anyway, when we get to some of these names, you can judge for yourself whether they're sensible or not. But it speaks so much to the mind control that's going on that the NHS would feel the need to recruit these people in the first place to push their agenda. You know, the whole scenario, the whole experience that we've all been forced to go through these past 18 months is like something out of a Monty Python sketch. It's like some surreal Terry Gilliam designed Monty Python sketch, isn't it? I mean, can't you imagine the cast of that show just lampooning what's going on at the moment and making a great sketch out of it? And it also puts me in mind of that famous sketch from the 1960s where you've got Ronnie Barker, Ronnie Corbett and John Cleese. Many people may have seen this. So they're lined up in a row and they're in height order. Obviously Cleese is very tall, then you've got Barker in the middle and you've got Corbett who's very short on the end. And they're talking about the class system in Britain. So John Cleese looks down on the other two and he says, "I look down on them because I am upper class." And then Ronnie Barker in the middle looks up at Cleese and says, "I look up at him because he's upper class, but I look down on him," pointing to Corbett, "because he's working class." And then Ronnie Corbett just delivers the killer line, "I know my place." I can actually envisage a variation on that sketch involving the contemporary fear muzzle wearing. Can you imagine? You got John Cleese saying, "I wear my mask to protect those two." And then Barker says, "I wear my mask to protect him and protect myself from him." And then Ronnie Corbett at the end just says, "I know it's all bollocks." That would be a great sketch, wouldn't it? And it also leads me to wonder what Bill Hicks and George Carlin would have made of these times and the ways in which people are living had they still been around. We can only imagine what their material would have consisted of, but I'm sure it would have been razor sharp because both those guys would not be able to resist speaking out about all this madness. I also wonder about John Lennon and George Harrison, if they'd still been around, instead of McCartney and Ringo. We know what they are. More of that later. But John Lennon, I like to think, would have had something to say about this. I mean, we can debate and speculate all day as to whether he was mind-controlled, whether he was pushing agendas, but one way or another, I don't think he would have stayed silent about all of this. George Harrison would probably have had some spiritual perspective on it, may well have spoken out and just reminded people of the fact that all things must pass, and materialism is an illusion, and all of this. And then musicians like Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Marvin Gaye, Donny Hathaway, they were soul singers that made socially conscious music towards the end of their lives, died tragically young, both of them, in very violent circumstances. I don't think they would have been able to stay silent about what's happening. Where are they like today? Where are they? Let's get on to that. So in my upcoming book, Musical Truth Volume 3, I'm really going to town on these pointless, pathetic celebrities and their treasonous complicity in genocide, because that's what it is. Let's call it out. It's a genocidal agenda. It's aimed at mass population reduction. Anyone can come to realise this if they do the research. All the material is out there, all the documentation, all the insiders and whistleblowers, all the material that the so-called elites themselves that are controlling this agenda have put out themselves through popular culture, through movies and TV shows, and actual documentation to tell you what they plan to do. And they're doing it right now. And the celebrities and the famous people are helping this agenda to be put into place. So in the book, I've got a section detailing those that have been openly complicit in the plan, and the rest, or the few, much less in number, who can be considered honourable exceptions, who have not gone along with the agenda and have actually spoken out against it. We'll get on to some of these names. Let's do this roll call. So this section is called Shills, Shits and Charlatans, because that's what they are. Where to start? Well, what better place than with the Sirs? Sir Paul McCartney, first name on the roll call of shame. You know, whether it's him or not, whether it's Billy Shears or whoever else playing the part, the individual known as Sir Paul McCartney. I personally feel it is the original Paul. I go into that some more in the upcoming book as well. But either way, you know, he's been pushing the V. He's been telling people to stay at home. He took part in the One World at Home concert last year. You know, coercing people into obeying lockdown dictates from their tyrannical dystopian overlords. Sir Ringo Starr, his bandmate. There's a reason why he recently became a Sir. Because he's a little poodle puppet yes man who does what he's told. He's been pushing the mask wearing. He's been pushing staying at home. Sir Elton John took part in an NHS V commercial to encourage people to take the J, And it was all dressed up as funny. It was supposed to be a comedy thing, and it was supposed to be quirky, and it was supposed to, make people feel at ease with the whole thing. But it was just treacherous, and it was disgusting, and it was nauseating to watch. Also in that commercial was Sir Michael Caine. Hang your head in shame. I've got zero respect left for Michael Caine. Used to enjoy him as an actor. Used to respect him. No more. Sir Mick Jagger made a record with Dave Grohl, who's also on the list of celebrity traitors, called Easy Sleazy, and it's taken the piss out of, alternative thinkers, conspiracy theorists, as they would be dubbed. And it's just rubbing the noses of those that know what's going on in it by just blatantly complying, basically. Absolutely disgusting. Mick Jagger, find your place on the list. Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. I mean, there are so many names that are completely irrelevant to popular culture in the year of our Lord 2021, but they're still wheeling them out anyway. I mean, who listens to anything that Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber has got to say? Anyway, he was in the press a few months ago likening those who don't wear a mask to drink drivers and saying they're no different. They're putting people's lives at risks in just the same way. Andrew Lloyd Webber, take your place on the traitors list, in the traitors queue for the traitors' fate. Just disgusting. Here's a surprising one. Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. Yeah, I said it. Roger Waters. That's going to surprise many people because Roger has been seemingly outspoken about things such as Israel and Palestine, the ongoing conflict there, and the unlawful Zionist occupation of Palestine, and many other causes that he's spoken out about as well. So he's got this image of being a socially conscious rebel, but, it is what it is. And in an interview, which he did a few months ago, he's celebrating and holding up Dr. Anthony Fauci as a hero. And in the same interview, he refers to Bill Gates as a good person. So what's going on here? Is Roger at 76 years of age with a lifetime of getting involved in social causes, is he just naive and ill-informed about the true nature of Fauci and Gates? Or is he showing his true nature and what he's been all along, which is a shill instilled, put in place to push the right agenda at the right time because people listen to him, because he's built up that kind of audience? I'll leave people to decide on that one, but he openly calls out Dr. Anthony Fauci as a hero and a great guy and saying, thank God we've got him. There are no heroes. I mean, there are none of these famous celebrity people that you can place any kind of faith or any kind of trust in. They always let you down. They're not your friends. They don't care about you. And there are very few exceptions. I would like to say none, but we have some honourable exceptions to call out in this video in a short while. In the meantime, back to the roll call of shame. Bob Geldof. There's a fucking surprise, eh? I mean, whenever there's an agenda to be pushed, you can bet they'll wheel out this owned stooge to do his bit and sing for his supper. And people know the true nature of Bob Geldof. Well, the real ones do anyway. From the globalist agenda pushing Band-Aid and Live Aid projects through to the Michael Hutchence incident, the real ones know all about Geldof. He's fooling no one. I mean, does anyone actually listen to anything he's got to say? Is he at all relevant in 2021 again? And in a recent interview, he described those who don't take the V as creeps and people that don't follow science. Unscientific, unthinking is how he described anti-V people, like me. Anyway, Bob Geldof can take his place. He earned it long ago. Who else have we got? Dave Grohl, I already mentioned. I mean, Dave Grohl is bloodline, as I've gone into in some of my previous work. So it's no surprise that he's wheeled out to push agendas. He's just fucking disgusting. He's a complete traitor. No one's friend, masquerading as this great guy, this rock god. But we've had quite a few of those over the years, haven't we? And we're now able to see through them all. Bruce Springsteen, same way. And also the Strokes. Let's throw all of those together. Dave Grohl, Bruce Springsteen, the Strokes. We're calling you out. When New York started opening up live music venues, these three acts induced medical apartheid by saying only those that had taken the V and therefore had a V passport to show would be admitted to their gigs. Well, I'm sure many people would like to say, fuck your gigs, we don't want to support you. Why would we, if you're going to impose those kind of restrictions on thinking people who are able to do their own research and have autonomy over their own body? The freedom, the natural right to decide what goes into their own body. How dare anyone try and impose that decision on anyone against their will? So fuck all of them. They're completely irrelevant. Jennifer Lopez, similar situation with her shows. Who wants to go and see Jennifer Lopez live anyway? Whoever did. Dolly Parton, I mean, she's mind controlled to oblivion. She put out that ad quite a few months ago now, doing a new version of her song Jolene and calling it V, you know, singing along V, go and get your V. So that's just to get the country and western crowd on side by serving up one of their popular heroes, making sure that particular demographic is catered for, as many others have been. Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac was going on the other month about how fans need to wear masks to protect her because they're putting her health at risk. So, just another fucking traitor. Michael Stipe of REM, military bloodline family background, so again no surprise that he's been wheeled out as an asset. Early on in the agenda he was pushing lockdown, encouraging his fans or instructing his fans to stay at home, do what the government tells you. So we know what Michael Stipe is all about. Sinead O'Connor, unfortunately, again mind control to oblivion, clearly has been all her life subject of MKUltra style trauma-based mind control programming. Doesn't it show with the things she's been used for and the things she's come out and said? So she's pro-V and, pushing the whole convid lie as she's pushed many other agendas over the years. Billy Bragg, what a disappointment. I mean, where are the rebels? Where are these acts who in previous decades were held out as working class heroes? They were presented as men of the people that represented the interests and the concerns of the everyday man. Billy Bragg was always, this socialist, communist type figure that was a hero of the working class. What's he had to say about these impositions on our rights and freedoms and being told we've got to stay at home and can't go anywhere and can't see the people we want to see by a completely tyrannical, out of control government? Well, he's publicly induced his fans, coerced his fans into wearing masks and doing their bit and doing what the government tells you. There's been photographs of him wearing his mask proudly on his social media saying, I'm wearing my mask to protect you, you should do the same for me, and all that bullshit. Billy Bragg, hang your head in shame. Where were you when your fans needed you? Doing what you were told like a good little dog. Roll over and get your tummy tickled. Dave Bartram, talking about irrelevance and public figures who have absolutely no place in popular culture in 2021. A lot of people are probably saying, who the fuck's Dave Bartram? Well, he was the lead singer of Shawaddy Waddy. Big group in the 1970s, many, many decades ago, getting on for 50 years ago. And even then, they were recycling old music. They were putting out 1950s style music in the 70s. So Dave Bartram in 2021 is put out there in a commercial saying, please, I know people that have died from COVID, you've got to do your bit, you've got to wear your mask, you've got to socially distance and all of this. Who's going to listen to Dave Bartram? I mean, they really are getting desperate, especially when they wheel out Toya Wilcox as well. I mean, how's Toya Wilcox even got a career anymore? She had a couple of hits in 1981 and she's been trading off it for the past fucking 40 years. She crops up as a talking head in all these TV shows talking about culture of the 80s and whatever else. She always bloody pops up. You can guarantee Toya Wilcox is going to be there. So she's married to Robert Fripp of the group King Crimson, and they've been putting out videos on their social media, very creepy ones actually, dressing up in very satanic looking costumes, and there's just a very unsettling air about those two. And I've never liked Toya Wilcox, and no great surprise that she has to pop up like a fucking jack in the box doing her bit to tell her fans to take the V, and we can all get back to normal once everyone's taken the V. Mr. C, let's call him out, the frontman of The Shaman in the 1990s. Many people might remember him as the voice of that song Ebenezer Good. So there he was in the 90s pushing ecstasy, MDMA on young people, clubbers, and here he is in 2020, 2021 pushing the V. Very zealously, very passionately. If you take a look at his social media posts of the past 18 months, he's been evangelizing about the V and how it's necessary to get everyone back to normal, how it's needed in concert venues, live music venues, nightclubs and such. So is Mr. C just naive and deluded, or is he knowingly pushing agendas? Is he just an implanted shill? Again, people can make their minds up about that, but all the evidence is there, all the data, and I've looked at some of his posts where he's been pushing the V. He's been arguing with people, he's been accusing them of being insensitive and putting other people's lives at risks, and he's been presented with alternative data. I've seen it. People have said, here's some documentation, here's a video, here's Dr. Mike Yeadon, former Pfizer chief executive, talking about how dangerous these things are. They're not even Vs in the traditional sense. It's experimental gene therapy. He's been presented with this information and he's willfully chosen to ignore it. He just doesn't look at it, doesn't address the conversation, just carries on evangelizing about how great the V is and how great Bill Gates is. He actually put a post up last year stating that Bill Gates should be president of the United States. I mean, let's just examine what's going on here. Bill Gates is a eugenicist. He's openly stated that he wishes to reduce the world's population. His father was a founding member of Planned Parenthood, one of the premier eugenics operations in the world. We know what Bill Gates' value system is. He's a traitor, he's an enemy of humanity, and he's pushing genocide. He wants to kill people. And this V agenda is designed to kill people. And Mr. C is supporting it and propping it up and telling people they need to get involved and do their bit by taking the V. So Mr. C of The Shaman is inducing people towards genocide, and if they don't kill themselves by taking one of these things, there's a very serious risk of illness and permanent maiming for the rest of their days. That is what Mr. C is all about. Same thing with Bushwhacker, of Leo and Bushwhacker, dance music duo, evangelising about the V. Just recently, we've had Carl Cox as well. Huge disappointment for any dance music, electronic music, techno fans. Carl Cox is revered as a kind of demigod DJ figure, but he appeared in a campaign put out there by Mixmag, the dance music publication. He was fronted up as the public face of this campaign, telling young people, clubbers, that the only way to get back to normal in clubland and have festivals and club nights running again is if everyone takes the V. I mean, I've looked at some of Carl Cox's posts prior to this. He got locked down in Melbourne, Australia, which is where he's got a home. And at the start of the scamdemic, he found himself in Melbourne, and that city has been subject to some of the harshest lockdown restrictions in the world. Under the remit of Dan Andrews, I mean, when we're talking about traitors that can wait in line to take their fate, Dan Andrews is going to be at the front of the queue. Wouldn't want that guy's karma. Anyway, Carl Cox was locked down in Melbourne for many months, and he was doing his live shows and his DJ gigs and doing sets and stuff, streaming from home, making the best of the situation. And he was making a lot of posts that suggested that he was just a bit naive and a bit confused and a bit ill-informed and hadn't looked at the evidence and all the information that somebody like Danny Rampling, for instance, had looked at. But he's shown his true colours now by saying the only way we can get things back to normal, the only way he himself, Carl Cox, can go out on tour and start doing gigs again is if everyone else takes this experimental gene therapy and puts unknown toxic substances into their bloodstream. So completely treacherous, obviously self-serving as well. He's just thinking that he wants to get back on tour, he wants to start making a living again. He said so in a recent interview with Youssef. Out of Liverpool, British dance music DJ and producer. They were having a conversation, and Carl Cox was saying, I've lost a shitload of money through not being able to work, and I just want to get back to normal. So he's obviously thinking that if other people take the V, he himself can get back to work and start earning some money. So many of these people are self-serving, and they can't see beyond their own career and their own income stream. Back to the Sirs. Sir Lenny Henry. Hang your head in shame. Again, I used to like Lenny Henry. I remember watching him on Tiswas back in the day when he was very funny. But we can see what he is now. He's completely sold out. He's a system asset. He's been the public face of the comic relief agenda coming out of the BBC for many, many years. Of course, this was just another New World Order, United Nations style agenda. Coming out of the BBC, how could it ever be anything else? So they wheeled out Sir Lenny Henry to front this. And one of the most disgusting, disgraceful aspects of this whole agenda in recent times has been these ads that were put together by the NHS featuring a ragtag motley assortment of black and Asian celebrities. And this was in response to the poor take-up of the offer of the V among black and Asian communities within the UK. Well, I wonder why that could be. Could it be because black and Asian cultures, communities, people from those nations have been historically oppressed and enslaved and exploited by the British Empire and the whole British establishment, everything that it stands for? And could it be that there's therefore widespread suspicion towards the true motives of the government of the UK towards these communities? Either way, this little band of traitors, sellouts, was put together to try and push the V to black and Asian communities. And with the black celebrities, you had Sir Lenny Henry fronting it. You also had Beverly Knight. And this was a huge disappointment to me because I've met Beverly Knight on a couple of occasions. I interviewed her back in the 90s. I had her in on my radio show. And a couple of years ago, a DJ friend of mine emailed me to say that he knew Beverly Knight and that she was starting to show an interest in my work, and she was starting to look into the true nature of the music industry. So I thought, well, this is great, because Beverly's going to switch sides and, support those of us that are exposing what's going on in the industry. Well, that didn't go too well, did it? Because here she is, popping up on this ad, along with all the others, saying what she's told to say. Very disappointing. Adrian Lester, the actor, was on that as well. And then you had the Asian commercial aimed at that community. And you had Romesh Ranganathan, who's allegedly a comedian. I find him about as funny as a cancer diagnosis myself. Sanjeev Bhaskar, Nina Wadia of Goodness Gracious Me, Asim Chowdhury, all this lot in the Asian ad. And let's look at what's going on here. These black and Asian celebrities are trying to coerce the very people that have supported them that constitute their fan base, that have helped them to achieve the fame and the fortune and the wealth that they now enjoy. They're trying to coerce these people into taking something into their bloodstream that may kill them, or if it doesn't do that, it may seriously maim them. They will most likely suffer health defects, as most people are discovering when they take this thing. And that's the way these black and Asian celebrities want to pay back the people that have helped them get into their position. Communities that they claim to represent their people. That's how they treat their people. Let them all hang their heads in shame. Some more obvious names. Sadiq Khan. I mean, does anything more need to be said about that guy? Jeremy Vine. BBC man to the very core of his bone marrow. People may have heard a video that was doing the rounds recently of a recent phone-in to Jeremy Vine's show on BBC Radio 2, where he's just being rude and abusive and cutting off callers who don't go along with the official BBC-endorsed government narrative on the V and everything else. Jeremy Vine, well, we know what he is. Piers Morgan, same way, claiming that he's taken the J and then he's got ill from it. Again, there's a fucking surprise, eh? But, he's just pushing agendas, and Piers Morgan is Piers Morgan. What more can you say? James O'Brien of Talk Radio, same way. James Corden, OBE, made a commercial recently with Ariana Grande, and they're doing this jolly, quirky, whimsical song about how great it is that everyone's taken the V and we can now all get back to normal. Idris Elba, OBE. Can't stand that guy. Never did like him. He's showing his true colours. He's demonstrating how it is that he got his OBE, because he's completely sold his soul to the establishment. He's pushed so many agendas going, and he's just another celebrity establishment stooge. And it's disgraceful. It's disgusting what these people are prepared to do for fame and fortune and wealth and recognition. Michael Palin. I mentioned Monty Python earlier. He's one of this ragtag bunch of celebrities that they wheeled out several months ago saying they'll take the V when it was in its experimental introductory stages. Michael Parkinson, another BBC asset, was saying the same thing. Eamonn Holmes, BBC asset. I mean, Eamonn Holmes kind of masqueraded as a half-truther. He's had David Icke on his podcast radio show a few times. And it's led people to think, oh, well, maybe Eamon's waking up. Maybe he's going to come on our side. Well, that didn't go too well, did it? He's not exactly coming over to the side of critically minded truth seekers and those that can see through the lies and the deceptions of government when he's propping up their V agenda by saying he'll take it. Lulu, same way, lifetime actor. And then Jedward, the final name on this list. There will be many others. There will be many that I've missed, and people can add their own names to the list, but I'll leave it with Jedward. John and Edward Grimes, this pair of Irish twins. Mind control to oblivion, again, I would say. They've been publicly attacking those celebrities who have been brave and bold enough to stand up and stick their head above the parapet. And they've obviously been put up to it by their owners and their handlers. Let's leave it there, because I'm starting to feel a bit ill thinking about some of these people. And let's move on to the section I've got here titled Honourable Exceptions. Those that have shown some backbone, some balls, and some propensity for being able to think for themselves and speak for themselves. First name I've got on the list is Ian Brown, former frontman of the Stone Roses. He's been putting out great music for about 20 years. I mean, Ian Brown has been awake and aware and has known what's really going on for a couple of decades now. And he just tells it like it is, brazenly on his social media, just makes statements and says what's on his mind, and to hell with the consequences and the repercussions, of which there have been many. Van Morrison, another name that's spoken out, Sir Van Morrison actually, a very rare exception to the rule, a sir who has spoken out. And some may claim that he's controlled still and he wouldn't be allowed to say these things, if he wasn't serving some aspect of the agenda or other. But I'm just taking things at face value, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. And until I see something to suggest otherwise, I'm going to assume that his statements about the damage that lockdown has done through the many songs that he's put out are genuine and sincere statements. Same thing with Eric Clapton. He took a while to come on side, and he took the V and then claimed that he got very, very ill from it, and he became outspoken about it as a result. And he's made records with Van Morrison criticising the whole COVID situation. So again, until I see something to suggest otherwise, I'm going to assume that Eric Clapton, CBE, part of the honest system, but I'm going to assume that his statements are genuine and sincere also, until my mind is changed. Jim Corr, frontman of the Irish group The Corrs. Great guy, Jim. I've met him a couple of times at the Open Minds conference in Ireland, and Jim has been on side for many years. He's questioned the official version of 9/11. I think that's what first, got him on the path to truth. And Jim's just a great guy that knows his stuff and doesn't believe a goddamn word that comes out of the mouth of the mainstream media, which is a pretty good way to be. Danny Rampling, DJ, big DJ name on the dance music scene. Did an interview with him the other week. Danny's a great guy, knows what's going on as well. There's a rapper out of the UK called Zuby, Z-U-B-Y. Again, I interviewed him on Good Vibrations a few months ago. Zuby, same way, outspoken, he's done his research, he knows his stuff. Black the Ripper, rest in peace. So Black the Ripper was an underground rapper out of the UK. And towards the start of the scamdemic in early 2020, he was putting out stuff on his social media linking the COVID agenda with the rollout of the number above 4 and the letter just before H. We have to do these things if we don't want to be taken down with these videos. So you'll know what I mean. Black the Ripper turned up dead very suddenly in very suspicious circumstances while he was staying on the Caribbean island of Montserrat in early 2020, immediately after making these statements. So we can make of that what we will. Wiley, the grime artist rapper, has had a thing or two to say about what's really going on with COVID, and he's taken a whole load of flack as a result, so that shows he's on the right path. Same way with Right Said Fred. Again, I interviewed these guys, great guys, the Fairbrass brothers. Who would ever have thought that Right Said Fred, with all the records they were making back in the 90s, would be outspoken in the years 2020 and 2021 and would become, heroes of these protest events they would be attending. They would be jumping on interviews and podcasts and such and speaking out against the tyranny and the outrageous impositions on our rights and freedoms at the hands of the government. Right Said Fred, just amazing. Another surprising name, just straying from the world of music for a minute along similar lines, is Gillian McKeith. I'm giving Gillian McKeith an honourable exception. So she's a nutritionist, and she had a show on Channel 4, I think it was, many years ago, and she's known, unfortunately, as the poo lady, because what she used to do was examine stool samples of people that wanted to change their diet, and from that she could tell what kind of nutrition they were lacking and they needed in their life. So not a very pleasant job to have, but it did make her famous and got her on the map. Well, Gillian McKeith in recent times has really been firing on all cylinders and really been calling out all the lies and the deceptions and the bad science on her social media. So fair play, respect. Who would ever have thought? There's some unexpected names really stepping up right now. There are many names that you would expect to have stepped up. I mean, Paul Weller has been pretty silent, hasn't he? Wasn't he a working class kind of hero of the people type? Not said a whole lot, has he? I mean, another one of that ilk would be Morrissey of the Smiths. And he's kind of gone halfway. He's not had a lot to say about it, but he did do an interview which appeared on his website where he's criticising the whole COVID thing, and he's talking about how what's being done to us is unnecessary and it's overstepping the mark. So he's kind of gone halfway. He's at halfway house. He's not been entirely silent, but he could have said more. Noel Gallagher and his brother Liam of Oasis have been putting out mixed messages, confusing stuff really. I mean, Noel early on said that he wasn't going to wear a mask on public transport, and Liam was saying bollocks to the whole, convid agenda. But then more recently, Noel revealed that he's taken the V. And he said he kind of regretted it afterwards, but nevertheless he still took it. Well, wouldn't you think that someone in his position, with access to all the information and the ability to do the research that the rest of us have, would know better than to take the V? But he did anyway. So like I say, it's mixed messages. Don't know what to make of the Gallagher brothers. Don't know whether we can trust them or not. Probably not, Goldie, the drum and bass DJ producer, has made a few statements about lockdown and how damaging that's been to the nightlife industry and culture and all this kind of stuff. That can be seen as self-serving, I guess, in many ways, because Goldie's career has suffered and he's not been able to go out and tour the same way Carl Cox hasn't. But, he's put out a few messages, so we'll put Goldie on the list. Baby D of Let Me Be Your Fantasy fame. I've met Dee at quite a few London protest freedom rallies recently. She's always in attendance at those, and she knows what's going on. Fair play to Baby Dee. She's been speaking out the way so many others should have, but haven't been. Gary Cobain, who was the frontman of Future Sound of London. Dance electronic music fans might remember that amazing record from the early 90s, Papua New Guinea, that he put out. Awesome track. Anyway, Gary Cobain is very awake and aware. Had a good conversation with him the other week. Chico of TV talent show fame. What was it? The X Factor or Britain's Got Talent? It was one of those. Chico appeared. It's Chico time and all that nonsense. Well, he's been popping up at these London protest events talking about child sex trafficking and pedophilia and all this kind of stuff. So he's clearly done his research, and who would ever have thought that someone of that ilk would be standing up to be counted in these times? Wiz Khalifa, the American rapper, he's had a thing or two to say. Norris the Boss Windross, UK garage DJ, he's been popping up at some of these London protest events and speaking out and knows what's going on. Steve Lawler, dance music DJ, same way. And a few reggae artists. Buju Banton has been calling out the government of Jamaica and how they've been handling this whole thing. Lee Scratch Perry, legendary reggae dub artist, has said a few things about it as well. And a few other reggae artists out of Jamaica. So that's pretty much the call of shame of celebrity traitors and the honourable exceptions, who I would argue in most cases do actually deserve our respect and are actually worth listening to. So my commendations to all of you on the list for speaking out. Just want to mention the next mass meditation that I want to curate. So far we've done the 6th of June, 7th of July and the 8th of August, 6/6, 7/7 and 8/8. I had planned to do the next one in September, and logically it would have been 9/9 on the 9th of September. However, I've realised that we're just coming up to the 20th anniversary of the events of September 11th, 9/11. So really, I think it would make sense to have this next mass meditation on September 11th, 9/11, to mark that occasion. And maybe we should do it at 9/11 in the morning, perhaps UK time, whatever that corresponds to elsewhere in the world. I mean, those events in New York took place from around about 8:45 in the morning, I believe. So round about that time of day, it would be great to get hundreds of thousands of people. I think hundreds of thousands have been taking part in these mass meditations. So let's do that again and get all these hearts and minds and souls pooling their consciousness and again willing truth, freedom and justice to manifest physically in this world. These things really do work. They really do have power. They really are very profound. The occultists, our opponents, our adversaries use these dynamics all the time, 24/7, because they comprehend how to control and shape and mould reality the way they want it to play out. We need to be doing the same, but obviously opposing their values and bringing light, love, positivity, truth, freedom, justice, love to the table. So let's do that on 9/11, September 11th this year, round about 9/11 in the morning, UK time. Going to do another video in a few days' time. I've got some other things that I want to get off my chest, a few thoughts about how the Convid scamdemic has actually done many of us some favours. It would have taken a while for us to realise, and it certainly wouldn't have seemed at various points along the way as if it was doing us favours, or that there could be anything positive to be drawn from our experiences. But there have been, because it's been bringing stuff that's been bubbling away under the surface right out into the open where it needs to be confronted and addressed. And I'll be going into that in more detail in the next video. The Sound of Now is back on. Each Saturday now I'm uploading these shows to Mixcloud. It's 2 hours of soulful, uplifting house, which is great music to listen to. It uplifts the soul, it uplifts the spirit. I hope people enjoy those shows. And I've got some live events coming up as well, as I mentioned last time. On Saturday 28th of August, there's another big freedom rally in London. I'm going to be playing at the after party. I think it's going to be open air somewhere in the evening. I've yet to get further details of it, but I'm looking forward to that. On the 10th of September, which is a Friday, I'm going to be at Truth Juice Birmingham's venue, E57 Social Club in Birmingham, with Martin Liedker, Dave Murphy, and a whole load of other names. That event is called the Holy Grail of the Great Reset. I'll be doing a talk on the music industry and a DJ set at that one. Then on the weekend of the 24th of September, I'm going to be at the big Freedom Network conference in Forest Row, or close to Forest Row in East Sussex. Again, doing a talk and a DJ set at that one. Hopefully see some people at these events. In the meantime, be sure to bookmark 9/11 for this mass meditation that we can do to really make a difference to things. This might be the greatest weapon that we have in trying to change our manifested reality. Thanks for listening.